Welcome, Chris, to Eyes Closed. It's amazing to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm doing really well. It's been a good day, lots to do. It's a busy day, but I feel really good about it. I'm excited, and I'm excited that I get to kick the day off doing this.
Great. Can you describe with us what is shadow integration?
Yes, I can. I'd be so happy to. So, shadow integration is something I've been personally doing on myself for a long time, and I've been teaching professionally for about 6 years now. And basically, what it is, so the shadow refers to the parts of the personality that you reject. And it's often commonly believed that the shadow is like your darkness and your aggression and all like the darker parts of humanity, but that's not necessarily the case. The shadow is just all the stuff that you as an individual don't like. So you could be comfortable with the darkness but afraid of the light, or comfortable with like rejection but afraid of connection. And so you could be afraid of the positive things in life. And so those would be in your shadow. And so whatever it is for each individual, what I help them do is reclaim the lost parts of their personality that they've rejected. And it's all about this fundamental belief system that whoever you are at your most whole and complete is the best version of you that you could be. So to have parts of your personality that are scattered and lost and not a part of your internal system creates disharmony and dysfunction and creates a lot of problems. So I help people reclaim them and put them back into context and make their lives and their personalities more whole.
That's incredible. Whenever I work with people, I'm always saying, like, this is the golden nugget. Like whenever you look at the shadow,
Yeah.
this is actually the thing that shines, and it's just like the most empowering thing. So, thank you for that. How do you address working with all the different levels? Like, do you work with people consciously of, asking questions and digging, or do you, maybe do hypnosis, working subconsciously? Like, how do you do your work?
Yeah. For me, it's all I just let my curiosity lead me. To me, I'm a very naturally curious person, and I really like solving puzzles. And people are the most complex and sophisticated and rewarding puzzles in the world that you could possibly solve. And so for me, when I'm talking to a client, first things I do is I figure out what it is you're wanting, and then I get clear on what parts of your personality are keeping you from already having it. And then I try and understand why that would be the case. And so I just ask questions trying to get to like, okay, so what emotion is causing this? And then I'll try to understand it, and I'll try and pinpoint it with whoever I'm talking to until we both agree that like, oh, that's why you're doing what you're doing. And then it's this huge revelation moment. And then after that, I try to help them put it into context, and place it into their lives. But for me, it's mostly intellectual, honestly. It's just
Mhm.
curiosity and pattern recognition.
And you're able to, dig that deep with the intellectual. Maybe people are hiding from it. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's because I've been doing it on myself for so long that I'm able to do that. Because had two mental breakdowns in my life. And so shadow work is the thing that allowed me to heal myself. And I quite literally, like after my most recent breakdown, which was like 6 or 7 years ago, I I had to basically put my mind back together piece by piece. And so because I had to deconstruct my mind and put it back together, I got the lay of the land really well. And so I understand how the self works on a fundamental level. And so when you go on fundamentals, it's really easy to understand someone, and it's really easy to guide them because there's all the surface level stuff, and that's what's confusing. But as long as you dig deeper and look underneath, it's all very simple. It's all uniform. Everybody functions the same way, and it's pretty easy to figure it out.
Incredible. How do you get people to trust you at this level? Because you're searching, but how do you get the people to just trust you and like open it for themselves and to trust themselves with it?
That's a great question. I honestly have no idea, to be completely honest with you. I'm amazed that I can, like, the way I get my clients is I just have a link on my Instagram page. And then people who have never spoken to me before schedule calls with me. And then 15 minutes into the call, they're saying things they've never said to anyone else. And I have no idea, honestly, why people trust me so much. I think a big part of it is because I'm sincere and I genuinely want to help people. And I genuinely love this stuff. Like there's like the worst the thing I find is in someone, the more excited I am to find it. And I think that excitement and my genuine love for all the parts that people don't know how to look at, I think that is encouraging. And I think people want to be near it. And so they feel my genuine love and my genuine curiosity, and allows them to kind of piggyback on that and go to places that they wouldn't normally go. But that's just a guess. I hope that's what it is.
That's so good. That's really, really good. It must be, a gift, and just like, it shines and people see it, so they want it as well. So that's well
Yeah,
done.
one of my nicknames is Permission. It's
Okay.
actually my Burning Man name is Permission, because it's supposedly I just give people permission to be themselves and to think things they wouldn't normally think and say things they wouldn't normally say and explore new parts of themselves. And so that's kind of what I'm known for
Yeah.
amongst my friend group. And so I like it.
No judgments. It's just like great freedom. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's even more than no judgment. It's excitement.
Hmm.
Like if I can find the thing that you don't want to see, it's like, yes, like cool. Your life's about to change. And that's so exciting for me.
All right. Once you operate on all those levels, once you operate with, knowing what's repressed and what's is there, what makes sense, how do you make a choice and you make everybody happy, knowing like the subconscious is here, the conscious is here, the,
Mm.
soul version of you is here. Like how do you advance in life and make everybody happy inside of you?
That's a great question. And for me, it all comes down to conflict resolution. For me, it's almost always just a conflict between two parts of the personality that are trying to accomplish the same thing, but in different ways. And often the ways that they go about trying to accomplish the thing are so different that they look like they oppose each other. And so they look like they can't coexist. But when you dig deeper to the fundamentals, you understand that they were really on the same side to begin with. Like wanting to connect with people, but also being afraid of being hurt. It's like you'd think that the part of you that's afraid of being hurt opposes the part of you that wants to connect. But it's just saying, hey, no, we should connect, but we should do it in a safe way, because there are things that we should protect ourselves from. There are dangerous people. There are all kinds of things that are worth protecting ourselves and thinking about. So let's think about those and plan for those and then connect with the people that it's actually safe to. And so they actually complete each other. And so when you can really dig deep enough and find the common ground between the two, it becomes fairly simple.
And that changes your life.
Yeah, I know I'm downplaying it a little bit because I want it to seem accessible, but yeah,
I
it
know.
will change your life. And the
Hmm.
hardest part is just facilitating the conversation, because it's like the part that is afraid and the part that wants to connect. It's like they really don't like each other because
Hmm.
they haven't gotten along. And so facilitating that conversation can be challenging in the beginning, but it's just so worthwhile. I've never found anything more worthwhile than that ability.
Thank you.
Yeah,
How can shadow integration integrate sorry, I'm gonna do it again. How
sure.
can shadow integration sorry. How can shadow integration change the game
Hmm.
within yourself, within a community, within society?
Yeah, so I think it's the thing to change society. For me, my coaching is actually a form of political activism. I've been like an anarchist punk since I was in 6th grade. And so I've been thinking about like revolution and changing the culture and changing the world and all those sorts of things since I was really, really young. And so as I got older, I realized that I used to be really rebellious. I used to be really angry. And I realized that I was only ever angry at myself. And the system that I wanted to destroy was just a representation of how much I wanted to destroy myself. And so for me, shadow integration was all about coming to that realization that it's not possible to hate anything without hating myself. And so for me, that that discovery really made a big difference for me. It made it so that I couldn't hate anything anymore, because I was aware of how much pain and suffering it was going to cause me. And so I just couldn't afford it. And so I started loving everything. And as I started loving everything inside of me, I started to notice my life getting a lot better. Like my head used to be something that scared me all the time. I used to be so terrified of being in my head. And now not only do I feel safe in my head and in my body, but it's actually a source of inspiration for me and others. People actually want to listen to what I have to say. Whereas before, my thoughts used to scare the crap out of me. And so that kind of transformation alone is really amazing. But as far as society, the thing that I really see is there's a lot of conflict. Like, I live in LA, I live in America, and we're as conflicted as you could possibly be. And I see that largely as a result of not being able to look at our shadow, because we have these two parties in America where it's like one's liberal and one's conservative. And when you look at it from a psychological perspective, they both live in each other's shadow. And the hatred that they seem to show for each other, it's so clearly self-hatred and an inability to look at the opposite parts of themselves. And that really, it's painful for me to watch the conflict get more and more out of control. And I feel like I have the solution to it, which is shadow integration. It's the ability to say, like, wow, I don't actually hate you. I hate the parts of myself that you remind me of. So let me address those, and then maybe we can actually collaborate and find that we can make a better world together. And that's really what I want to see. And I also think it's important to bring this into the coaching industry and the healing industry as a whole, because we've known about the shadow for a while, but we've really only talked about it from the self-sabotage perspective and the limiting beliefs perspective. And I find those to be not a very effective ways of looking at it long term, because the limiting belief and the self-sabotage, people generally just teach you to repress those things as if like it's some kind of outside entity that's trying to hurt you and like mess up your life. But it's like you, and it's doing it for a reason. And if you can have love and compassion for what reason you might have to stop yourself from being all that you can be, well, then like you have a better chance at integrating that. And so I think I'm starting to hear the word integration a lot more, and I can only hope that people are really delivering the heart and soul of it. But I feel it to be my personal calling to get this work out into the coaching industry. It's why I'm teaching a business course on it, so I can help other coaches learn this and so that they could do it with their clients. And also for society at large. Like, I think this is the thing that is really going to help us turn a corner, because conflict can only rise so much before either the system breaks or integration begins. And I think we can be the tip of the spear to help integration start to be the thing that we're doing.
I wish you all success and successful endeavors, because like we're gonna change the world. But thank you for doing your part and doing this message, sharing this message.
Yeah, thank you.
About the industry, like, yeah, I saw the word integration is being like thrown around everywhere this summer. I wanted to ask, well, you've been doing this work for 6, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look to you? What does it look like now to you to have done shadow integration and to continue this path, which, it's not a thing that you do in one session. It's like a ever going path that continues to unfold. So how does it look like to you now?
Honestly, it's relieving and scary at the same time. It's relieving that the thing that I'm good at and have been practicing for the last 6 years is becoming popular. And so as long as I do my work, then I can demonstrate myself. That's like, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. I know the way. Like, if you want to learn this skill, like, let me help. Like, so in that sense, it's really good. But in the other sense of the fact that once something gets really popular, it starts to lose its meaning. That kind of scares me, because this is really important work. And this is something that I don't think we can really afford to take lightly and have it lose its meaning and have people use the word integration when they're actually doing something else. Like, I'm really protective over that word, and I'm really protective over the work associated with it. And so I'm also pretty vocal about my opinions. So if I see this word being misused, like, I'm absolutely going to call it out, because it needs to be protected. It really does. This is important work that I don't think we can afford to water down. But with that being said, I'm excited that people want to learn it. It's really exciting to me, because we've only really known it. Like, Jung was the first one who brought this up, and it was in the 60s. And so we've only known about this work for less than 100 years. So the fact that it's getting popular is really cool. And I want to do my work to make sure that it gets popular for the right reasons.
Great. For Jung, and for the way he did it as well, because when you read his books, you're just like finally, touching ground of something that is so deep and
Mm-hmm.
so developed as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
When you say it's scary, you're talking about the industry, but I want to talk about another scary part is the duality and like the multiplicity side of exploring one's shadow. When you
Mm-hmm.
actually are listening to everything that happens around you and inside of you, and then you witness different parts of yourself, or for you, your clients. How do you deal with witnessing all the sides of human nature?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good one, because it can be really overwhelming. But for me, the really scary thing is ignoring it. Looking at it isn't nearly as scary to me as ignoring it. And so because of that, I get excited about it. To me, complexity is beauty. I love complexity so much. And I think that the ability to hold and manage complexity within your mind and within your body is really the skill of the future, especially if integration is going to start becoming more and more popular. The ability to hold complexity is essential. And especially if we're going to talk about the shifts in the industry and the shifts in culture, then the ability to hold this multiplicity that you're talking about is everything. And so for me, it's personally really exciting um, to look at these things and be able to put them in context. It's like if I can hold 5 different parts of my personality all at once, then to me, it's like, wow, this is really amazing. It's incredibly exciting to see what the human being is capable of and how much is going on under the surface that we didn't really know. So for me, it's exciting. And as far as seeing it in my clients, it's again also really exciting because I just see all these scary things as gateways. It's like as soon as I can find the scary thing, it's like, oh man, I can't wait to see what this turns into. And I can't wait to see like how much better your life gets just now that you've seen it. And so the whole thing is really exciting to me, but it only got exciting to me because not looking at it is so much scarier. I personally firsthand saw that, like, I had a lot of repressed anger. I saw my dad die when I was 7. I was raised by Jehovah's Witnesses. I got kicked out of my house when I was 16. I was homeless when I graduated high school. Had really bad mental health problems, had 2 psychotic breakdowns. And so, like, my life was just kind of difficult. And it was all the repressed emotion that almost kind of killed me. And so, after learning the importance of looking at emotion, and after seeing just how incredibly transformational that process is, to me, it's just exciting. I don't really like, I experience resistance when it's something new, because the hardest part is looking, but once you look, it becomes fun. And so to me, it's just exciting because you kind of build this forward momentum. And after you really start to see the benefits over and over again, then it's like fear starts to become exciting.
And once you look at something that could have been, repressed with so much anger or so many things, how do you address self-compassion, just like forgiving yourself for what you've been through and what you've put yourself through for years?
Yeah. That's I love that you said both of those because it's what you've been through and it's what you've put yourself through. So I recently taught a shadow integration class, and one of the things that I did that I thought was kind of interesting was I had everybody look at themselves as if they'd been in an abusive relationship with themselves and really get both sides of it to see, like, for me, my anger was the thing I had to conquer. And it was really, really scary for me to see this thing that was turning into a monster. It's like, how do I love this thing that's ruining my life? I don't know how to do that. It was a terrifying concept. But the only thing that helped me break through that was realizing that it's only acting this way because I'd been so mean to it for so long. And that as long as I felt like I needed a reason to love something, I would never get healthier. The only way I would ever truly get healthier is if I didn't need a reason. And if I could love something just because it's in pain and it needs love. Like, any reason beyond that to me is unnecessary. And so once I really adopted that mindset of loving something just because anything else would be cruelty, it makes things a lot easier. And so that's kind of like the energy that I bring to my clients and to myself as well. It's like anything other than love is just going to create more dysfunction. And you're quite literally going to be bullying a child. And when I think of it as bullying a child, it's like, I can't get anywhere near that. And so I try to just remember that as much as I can, and remember that, like with a hurt dog's only going to lash out because they're scared. And so if you give them plenty of space and let them know that they're safe, eventually they transform. And that's kind of the whole thing for me.
That was the next question, exactly. Just like when you're the one questioning and looking at the shadow, how, like, sometimes it gets too complex. You're
Mm-hmm.
with parts of you that have different ages and different versions of you as well. And do you actually, when you do the work with yourself, do you call a timeout? Do you say, okay, this is a maze, I'm not seeing the end of it? How do you call a timeout, and should you, or should you continue to dig deeper?
That's so good. That's such a good question. I love these questions because they're so clearly coming from somebody who does the work on a deep level. So I'm really appreciating the intricacies of all these questions. Um, so yeah, I call timeouts all the time. Pacing is one of the most important things of the process. Uh, because one of the reasons that I personally warn people away from things like psychedelics is they can have you go at a pace that's unnatural. And when you go at an unnatural pace, you can see more than you're ready to see. And that can have really negative psychological impacts. You can get emotionally overwhelmed, and that can take you out for days. You can have a psychotic breakdown. Like, there's a lot of things that can come from, which is why Jung said, beware of unearned wisdom. And so when it comes to pacing, if I'm starting to see like, okay, I'm getting overwhelmed and I'm getting overloaded, this is too much information, I just stop and I do something else. Because it's like, again, it's like the metaphor of a hurt child. I tell my clients, it's like if you saw a traumatized kid sitting on the side of the street who just saw something horrible, like, you're not going to demand that they give you answers. That's not a healthy way to relate to a traumatized child. The healthy way to relate to a traumatized child is to just sit with them and let them know that if and when they're ready to speak at whatever pace, that you're there to listen. And so you're not getting anything out of them. You're simply being the space that would allow them to speak if they wanted to. And so to me, that's absolutely essential, because it's the pacing that's natural to you. It's the pacing that'll be healthy, and it's all based in trust. And if these lost parts of your personality can't trust you, then they're never going to open up to you. And you're just going to like try and pry the answers out of them. And you're going to dig yourself deeper in a hole. So yeah, I absolutely take breaks. I do a lot of self-care. I play games. I do things that make me feel nurtured and comfortable, and just know that I'll get the answers when I'm ready to.
That's perfect. Games are life. It's
Yeah.
perfect to just, let the child be the child. So just embody the child by playing and having fun and dancing and singing, whatever needs to happen.
Yeah, totally. It's a huge part of my life. That's why I have like comic book stuff all over my office, and like I have like action figures and stuff, because it's a huge part of the reason. It's a huge way that I stay connected to the younger part of myself, and let that be one of the things that guides me.
Thank you. So you obviously do this work with passion. What would you like anybody, everybody to wake up from?
Inner conflict. That's the whole thing. Inner conflict. If I could help everybody facilitate conflict resolution conversations with themselves, if there was a mass movement towards that, we would have a completely different reality in a generation or two. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I think a society steered towards internal conflict resolution that would allow for external conflict resolution. I think if we were to steer ourselves in that direction, we could solve most of the world's major problems in just a generation or two. Like we, like at least here in America where I live, we don't spend a lot of time solving the problems. We spend a lot of time fighting people whose ways of solving the problems we disagree with. And nothing ever gets done because of that. And I think that's a shame. And I think it's being done to us on purpose. And because of that, it's our responsibility to rise above it, because we can't ask for help. We can't ask for government or media or society or anybody to fix it for us. It's our responsibility, because I think we're being separated on purpose. And so if we're ever going to integrate and find a unified voice, it's on us to do it. And I think the shadow integration is the vehicle that will allow us to do that, or at least a
About,
vehicle.
yes, about inner conflicts, what always helps me is like, what are my values? Without lying, with entire honesty, what do I really care about? And
Mm-hmm.
then this is my compass. I'm not going to steer away from it. But
Yeah.
it took a long time, like a few years of, always fighting what is right, what is wrong. Well, what is right for me right now is this or that. And then it just helps clear everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. When I teach my shadow integration class, the very second thing we do is have them define their values, because I completely agree with that. Your values are the things that define you. And if you're looking at it from like a historic perspective, I really love like Nietzsche's prediction about, God is dead. And then he said that we were going to try and create things from the intellect and that it was going to go horribly wrong, which we did, which is fascism and communism and all these different things that had horrific results. And then he said the end result to get us past that would be the ability to create and define our own personal internal values. And so I think he was dead on with his prediction. And I think the ability to create and define internal values that you can live in alignment with so that your conscience is clear, I think that's the future. And shadow integration, I think, is the process by which those can be identified.
That's amazing. I didn't know about this quote or this saying, but I keep thinking about the knights, how a knight, when he was celebrated, like knighted as a knight, he had those values that he had to
Mm-hmm.
follow. And that always keeps me, just shining and remembering my path. So I
Yeah.
wish we had those kind of things in the society right now, where we had those people with those values that are showing them at all times.
Mm-hmm. I do as well. And especially the ability to identify your own internal values. It's like that's how you live with a clear conscience. And a person who lives with a clear conscience is powerful.
Hmm. So, what are your next explorations? What are your next projects?
Yeah. So the thing we're doing right now that launches officially on next Monday is I want to teach a business course about shadow integration. And the reason that I want to do this is I've been coaching for 6 years, and it took me about 6 years to get a foothold that I could feel solid in. And a large part of that is because I disagreed with just about every expert out there who's teaching you how to do what I do, from the business perspective, that is. And it was very frustrating for me. A lot of people only talk about money, and a lot of people don't address integration at all. And they teach you these like inner work and mindset things that are basically just repression. And anybody who's suffered a psychological breakdown like I have and nursed themselves back sees the danger in repression. And so it's like, I'm not going to get anywhere near that. And that's what most people teach. And so it was very, very hard for me to find anybody to learn from that I could trust. And so it took me 6 years because I had to kind of create my own method based on integration as the foundation, because no one else was teaching it. So it was very hard for me to find mentors. And so what I'm doing right now is creating the course or leading the course that I wish somebody would have taught me years ago. And so what it is, it's basically taking a look at sales and marketing and structure and leadership and facilitation and all the different elements of running a coaching business or a healing business or therapy or anything like that. It's taking a look at all the essential things on a fundamental level and integrating the core concepts into your value system and into your ethics system and into any parts of you that might oppose them. Because what happens is people learn these tactics and they're repression tactics, and then they get surprised when they lose steam over time. And it's like, well, you're repressing essential parts of yourself. So of course you're going to lose steam. The only way to do these things without losing steam is to integrate those parts of you so that they can add fuel to your fire rather than create a conflict for you to be battling while you're trying to build a life for yourself. It's just who has time and energy for that. So I'm really hoping to help the industry pivot and do things a little bit differently so that we really can be aligned in our values. Because I think a lot of people trade integrity for success, and that's really sad to me. And so I want to, especially in an industry that's supposed to be doing good for people and supposed to be aligned and authentic and heart-centered, and they're selling out, it's awful. And so for me, especially being raised on punk rock, it's like the worst thing you can do is sell out. You might as well die before you sell out. And so that's a really strong conviction that I've had since I was a little kid. And I want to bring that into the industry because we're supposed to be helping people. We can't be afford to have this stink of inauthenticity all over us because it's burning people. I keep talking to people and they're fed up with the coaching industry. They don't want to hire people anymore. And they're like, they're all hucksters. And it's like, no, they're not. Like, I'm going to do whatever I can do to set this straight. And this is the best way I can think of to do it.
Thank you. And that starts on Monday.
Yeah, starts on Monday.
Great. And how else can we work with you, or how can we contact you? Your Instagram, your Twitter, whatever you have.
Yeah, so Instagram's the best way to reach out to me. That's where I'm most active. And it's Operation _Moksha, Moksha, which is a Sanskrit word for liberation from the false personality. So for me, that word is like, it's an operation to set everyone free. That's what that name means to me. And that's the best way to reach out to me. It's you can schedule consultations with me just straight from my Instagram page. You can see all my memes. It's got a link to my YouTube page where I've got 6 years worth of videos on there, all about shadow integration. Um, the course is coming up. It's amazing. We're still doing sales for it, but I also do personal coaching, and is I can coach on anything: relationships, personal confidence, business, anything that's coming up in your life where emotions are the thing that's causing you trouble. I can help you deal with it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll
Yeah.
put all your links in the show notes and everything. Thank you so much.
Awesome.